Hi everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you have about your health and fitness goals. And yes, today we are outside because it is hot. And I had a great time out here with my grandbaby earlier today. So I've got like the little water table and all that fun stuff set up here. Okay, so I still have Wi-Fi, so we're great to go here. I have a really great topic today. Sometimes I ask around, like, what kind of things would you like to talk about? Oh yeah, by the way, I have earrings today. Yeah. I don't wear them very often because, piercings don't work for me anymore. I tend to just absolutely get infected. So, not normally, but I'm like, hair up, it's feeling cute, and it's hot out. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the psychology of weight loss, but that's not really what I like to call it because, of course, you know that I'm not a big fan of calling it weight loss. When it comes to your health and fitness goals, I really like to talk about things that are more appropriate because, honestly, when it comes to talking about weight loss, that puts a really specific connotation in your head that, if the scale isn't moving, then you're not being successful. And I'm not a fan of that. To me, that is really kind of taking you away from what the true goal is, which is health and fat loss. So again, but it really is the psychology of weight loss, and there is a lot behind that. Most of us that have actually tried to hit a health goal really know the physical part is actually the easy part. It is the what's here between your two ears that really becomes some of the issue. And so today we're really talking about a little bit about self-sabotage, because it happens, even I do that, and how to get out of your head. I'm really listening to people recently, and oh, that's cute. Hearing a lot about, people struggling to get out of their head, to kind of focus on the psychological part and the aspect of really hitting your health goals. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And it can be a little different for everyone. Some of us find that we are addicted to certain foods, whether it's because it's a comfort food, whether it's because it's made to be that way, it's made to be addictive. Sugar is an addicting substance, or whether because we relate it to comfort, right? Maybe when we were kids, we fell down, our parents made us feel better by giving us ice cream, whatever that is. So there's a lot to it. Plus, we do get that dopamine hit when we eat that junk food. There's something very, very real behind what we call the bliss point, or the hyper palatable part of processed food. And so sometimes that becomes a problem, and then that can actually translate into a guilt cycle, especially for people who end up kind of giving into that. And it feels good for 2 seconds because we get that sugar rush, and then we get that dopamine hit, and then we feel guilty, and we kind of do this horrible guilt cycle thing. So that can be a huge part of it. So there's a few things that I want you to think about, right? Because some of it is physical, like triggers, and the fact that if we're eating a lot of those processed foods, we crave that sugar, we crave that comfort food on multiple levels. But there is a whole psychological aspect to that, and I really do want to talk about that and how to get out of that, being trapped in that cycle. It's not easy for those of us that have been through it, especially if you've done any sort of yo-yo dieting. There's more to that part of it. I'm not a huge fan of dieting because, of course, usually that entails being very, very strict with yourself, feeling like you're sacrificing, and that comes with a huge downside, which is that you tend to binge, and your biology is actually going to fight you on that, because that is not how your body works. Hi, Lori. I haven't talked to you in forever. Yeah, you know what? We all sometimes have that issue. We get kind of stuck in our head. So I'm already aware that I've actually, I do self-sabotage when it comes to technology and building that part of my business, just because, again, I really want to make sure that I connect with my clients. And so it's very difficult to kind of be able to scale and some of that as well. So it can happen in other parts of our lives. But I get it. Also realize that I've also been on the unhealthy end of the spectrum. I know a lot of times people look at me. I've actually had somebody say, well, you don't understand how I feel because you're so low body fat. And I was like, honey, I've been 46% body fat. I get it. Been there. And so I do really empathize with people who are really struggling with all those things. Like I said, I'm not immune. I still once in a while eat my feelings. I have drank myself to sleep a couple of times throughout the pandemic. But I do have better coping skills, and that is a good portion of it. So listen, if you're struggling, plus one of the best parts of what I do is, even as a trainer, as a coach, things like that, I'm okay approaching the psychological aspect. I know there's trainers out there who, when they go home, they don't want to talk about it. They want to be done. And I'm very aware that I want my people to communicate. I want to be able to remind them how amazing they are and how important their goal is, and that all progress is progress, and it doesn't matter if you fall down, get back up. I know sometimes when we don't have that support, sometimes we kind of go, well, this is too hard, I give up. But yet, if you have somebody that you can check in with, and I call it having the coming to Jesus talk, even though it's isn't really spiritual, right? Well, it could be, I guess. But, we really sometimes have to talk about, which do you want more? Do you, when you don't feel good, when you, because if you're eating a lot of garbage, you actually don't feel good. Are you tired of being fatigued? Are you tired of feeling like that? Sometimes you need somebody to remind you that that's what that unhealthy eating or whatever that unhealthy thing you're doing creates. So it's nice to have that support. It's nice to have an extra set of eyes. It's nice to have somebody who cares about what you're doing. And so to me, I just want you to be healthy and happy. That is my overall goal for everybody I work with, everybody I talk to, and everybody watching on this, whatever platform you're watching me on. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about self-sabotage. That can come from a couple of different directions. That can be something that's totally subconscious. Sometimes we think, especially as women and moms, we don't deserve it. I spent a good portion of raising my children thinking that I wasn't good enough. And that's hard. And that can stem from multiple things. We may have learned that throughout our childhood. Something happened. A parent may have kind of drilled that into you, or maybe even a religion. So again, there's more to that. We can't just kind of blatantly say one thing or another, but we all have our demons. We all have our demons. So part of it is, I think there is a deserve level. You are going to have to tell yourself you are worth it and you do deserve it. Even if it's, listen, I'm telling you that you are worth it and you deserve it. So part of what we're going to go through is empowering ourselves to believe that we deserve it. We deserve better. We deserve to be healthy. We deserve to be happy. So you do have to allow yourself that joy. So the first thing I want to talk about when we get in our head is, so many of us focus on the results. Now, okay, sorry. I'm moving around because I lost my signal there. So if you're freaking out, I don't know. You know what? We've had issues with our Wi-Fi, so it could be anything. But all right, let me get back in this position. I hate when that happens because I was in flow. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, we're talking about self-sabotage and about allowing yourself permission to do the things that it will take. And that my job as a trainer and as a coach is to help plan that map, right? I always tell people the education is free. The map is the only thing I charge for, because everybody's so different. There is no one right way that you're going to reach your goal. So hopefully everybody's jumped back on. That is very, very frustrating. I'm sorry, you guys. We're having issues with Wi-Fi. We actually have really, really fast Wi-Fi where I live. It's up to some ridiculousness. And I pay for the high speed, not the regular. I'm just aware of how many people are on the Wi-Fi in my house, because we have a lot of people living here. But sometimes we have just some issues. It's probably time for a new router. But okay, so let's really quickly talk about, expectations. Part of it is knowing what's realistic and being able to focus on the right things. And again, I think sometimes we get in this position of, well, it says that if I have a 500 calorie deficit every day, I should lose 1 pound a week. But the problem is biology doesn't work that way. It's not linear. It can give you an idea of how to reach that. But in that, even just that piece of information, that doesn't even talk about, well, wait, where do those calories come from? Is it junk food? Is it healthy food, right? 100 calories of broccoli and 100 calories of Tootsie Roll are not the same. Your body does not treat them the same. You're not going to process them the same. So there's a little bit more science that you need to understand in that. And part of my job as a coach is to educate people, because that is my background, is education. So, and again, I'm a huge nerd, right? So I love this kind of stuff, but I want to make sure that you understand why. Part of it is not just telling you what to do, but helping you to understand why that's important, how that works, and what that means for you. And it's very, very interesting that I can actually work with the same person over several years, off and on, and sometimes they still don't understand how their body works and what I mean by that. So sometimes I have to take a slightly different approach. All right, sorry, I've got to look at my notes here too. But I do want you to really think about focusing on the efforts. And again, if you're not sure what it's going to take to get there, you might need to get a coach. You might need to get somebody who understands how your body works. And make sure that you don't just hire the cheapest option that you find. Listen, I'm not cheap anymore, and it's because I spent 10 years studying, researching, nutrition, how the body works. Guys, my favorite is working with the average person that just wants to feel better. Yes, I work with diabetics, cancer patients, and listen, I've had doctors, nurses as clients, like you name it, I get it. Here's the great thing. If I don't know something, I will tell you I don't know, but then I'm probably going to do some research and figure it out because again, I've worked with people with some really interesting illnesses. I do not know a lot about hormones, PCOS. There's a good portion of things that I've had to educate myself. But the one thing that I don't want you to do is I don't want you to get overwhelmed because that can happen extremely easy. You have to take it one thing at a time. And again, focus on the efforts. Let those of us that kind of get it, we've seen how this works. I watch my people. I tell you, it takes a little time for me to learn you, but that's what check-ins are for. I'm watching how people's bodies respond. How's your energy level? How do you feel? Are you feeling gassy? Is there a problem? We talk about things that are TMI. We talk about bowel movements. All of that is part of health. So again, nothing's really off the table in that. And I know that seems a little weird, but it's just part of figuring things out. So focus on the efforts. Number 2, sometimes you're just going to have some outside support or help. That might be a coach, that might be a workout buddy, that might be a friend. Be a little bit careful about using people. One of my biggest frustrations all time, it's a huge pet peeve, are when people come to me and say, well, my sister's boyfriend's mom said that, you're not teaching me the right thing because what about this? And I'm like, is your sister's boyfriend's mom into health? Like, what do they look like? Are they a doctor? Are they a nutritionist? No, they're none of those things. Then how the heck do they know? Like, it's so frustrating. If you not switch places with them, do not take advice from them. Everybody has an opinion, right? They've heard something. And you don't even have to trust me. Research it. Like everything that I tell you, research it. I want you to look. I want you to educate yourself. I want you to be very, very aware of how that works. And I want you to dig further than just what you hear on social media because there's a lot of noise and a lot of contradicting information. Sometimes I have to come back to that response or that question with, well, how is that working for you, right? Some of the common things we think we know about health and nutrition is antiquated and we've already proved it wrong. So you really have to keep up on what's happening, what the changes are. But back to finding some sort of support, whether that's, you really do become like the 5 closest people to you. So if your 5 closest friends drink wine every night, guess what? You probably drink wine every night. Most of my friends that I do spend any sort of time with, and honestly, it's mostly my family, but they tend to go to the gym, right? Because that's what I do. I did lose friends throughout the process of going from 210 pounds down to, it depends on where I'm at and what I'm doing at the time. Right now we're about at 130, but it just depends, right? I can't remember about my body fat percentage. But I lost friends because all of a sudden I didn't go out to eat all the time. I don't drink very often. I don't do those things because I have bigger goals. And really one of my goals is to be as healthy as I possibly can for as long as I possibly can because it's super fun to play with grandbabies. That's like my favorite part. So again, but having some sort of support, somebody that understands. Now, part of it is too, you may find that the people that you think should be the most supportive aren't. And it's not because they don't want you to do well. It's because they don't want you to do better than they're willing to do. And that's unfortunate. There's been some people pretty close to me in my life that really weren't super helpful. And so be aware that it's kind of that whole misery loves company. If I can't be super healthy because I'm not willing to put the work in, neither should you. And you're no fun now that you don't drink anymore. You're going to have to make that choice, right? And my choice is really to have a quality of life for a very, very long time. So again, find an extra set of eyes, whether that's a coach or somebody that you're just meeting up with to be accountable to. It is definitely beneficial to have something in common with that person when it comes to your goals, but also that they might have a little bit more knowledge than just social media. Okay, anyhow, educate yourself. All right, number 3, you may have to get some professional help. Now we are talking about getting out of your head. So I'm gonna not only apply this to a coach or a professional, some sort of health professional in that direction, but even, listen, it's been a big thing the last, I'm gonna say decade or even more, that mental health is super important and it's okay to get help. There's nothing wrong with having a counselor, a therapist. Sometimes it's because we just haven't learned coping skills or, for some of us, the gym is therapy, but for some of us, we just need better coping skills. We need to not eat our feelings. We need to find something that works. And you need somebody that has those tools in their tool belt that can help teach you that. So don't be afraid to reach out. Sometimes it's difficult to find a counselor or therapist that you jive with. So you might have to check around and try some different things. Don't just go to the first person that is in the phone book, just because that's the person there. Find something that again, your personalities work well together, that they seem to really understand you, that they are willing to find, not just listen to you, but help you find tools in order to do the things you need to do. I think, it's hard to be an adult. It's hard to be a human. It's hard to be a teenager, right? I don't ever want to do that again, ever. But a lot of times we didn't necessarily grow up with those tools. If our parents didn't have those tools, we may not have those tools. And it's okay to search out, educate yourself, and find somebody that can teach you and help equip you, right? So just like somebody who can't see needs a pair of glasses, it's a tool. Don't be afraid to reach out and get the help that you need for that. Listen, I have looked at working with people and we've talked about, again, sometimes there's a variable outside of my ability to help people with. So a lot of times I've sent people to hormone specialists. I've sent people to, I've suggested Overeaters Anonymous. There's a 12-step program for that. I have taken classes on food addiction. So it's just not always appropriate for one straight thing to be the tool for everyone. Sometimes we have to try some different things and find what works for each person. Again, we all have different backgrounds, different ages, different goals, different traditions, different choices, different preferences. I work with people across the board. Sometimes people come in and they're vegetarian. We have to kind of take a different approach to that. So again, there's no one right way, but you have to figure out what that is for you, because you are always your own best health advocate. Keep that in mind. Nobody cares about you like you do, really. I mean, yes, your significant other might be wonderful and great, but listen, ladies, your husbands speak a slightly different language. If you ever read the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, they just look at things differently. And so sometimes it's going to be up to you to figure out what works best for you. You can't even rely necessarily on your doctor to know everything and have your best. They do have your best interest at heart, but they don't necessarily know you as well as you do. So there's no reason you shouldn't get a second opinion, right? Again, you have to be in charge and accountable and want to take care of you. That's a big part of it. All right, number 4. This is a good one. I think a lot of us have not been taught how to be positive. If you grew up in a household where somebody was super negative, and you've kind of taken on that personality, that learned trait, you may have to work really hard against this. It is important to find the positive in everything. For those I really am concerned about the upcoming generations, that they're not being taught certain aspects of critical thinking skills, being prepared for the world, being prepared for real life, taking care of themselves, and seeing the best direction that they should go. Like, let me give you an example. One of my favorites is, what happens to you is not as important as how you react to it, right? So two people can look at the same exact situation, and one person is that half empty, right? The glass is half empty, and that other person is the glass is half full. Now, you might catch yourself being a little more pessimistic, and you may have to train yourself consciously to be a more positive person. Not everybody's out to get you. Not everybody wants you to fail, but you have to determine how you look at that situation. So a lot of times when my clients come to me and they're like, dude, I just totally fell off the wagon. Like, I just did it. Okay, I'm not mad. Why would I be mad? This isn't my goal. But I do teach people to say, okay, was it worth it? Right? Because sometimes it is. Sometimes you just needed that moment. You needed the whole basket of fries, whatever that was. Great, now get back on track. But a lot of times we're like, no, I just couldn't help myself. So then we talk about what are some skills, tools, and strategies that we can put in place so that we don't have that happen again. I don't want you to look at it as you're a bad person, you're not worth it. That's not true. Anybody who tells you that needs to be smacked, right? You are worth it. You just have to determine what works best for you, and again, how to put strategies in place that work for you. And that's going to change over time, guys and gals. As now a grandmother, the strategies that I used 10 years ago when my kids were little are not the same strategies that I use now. So let's talk about being positive. You may have to train yourself to be that way. I have my moments. Trust me, ask my kids. I have my moments where I'm just like, blah. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. However, there's a couple things that can help you. Number 1 is meditation. And I know you don't want to hear that. You're like, Melissa, I can't hold still that long. Guys, I get 10 minutes max. That is my maximum meditation time. That is as long as I can literally make my brain hold still. But the breathing itself, believe it or not, again, try it. You know what? Hi, Ani. Try it. Prove me wrong. Try it a few times and see if it doesn't work for you. I've actually taught myself, because I catch myself in the car breathing very shallow or holding my breath, maybe because I can't stand the way other people drive. I don't know. I have to really sometimes just stop and really take some deep breaths so that I get the oxygen to my brain and my body. There's a couple things you might have to employ. So meditation might be one of them. Yeah, I know my sprinklers are going. Just ignore it. It's cooler back here. So we're just going to use this space. I sweat to death last week. It was bad. So meditation is not a bad thing. What worked best for me, again, it's different for everybody. I literally just used 5-minute meditations on YouTube. I picked guided meditations. It took me a few to find one that worked. Put my earphones in first thing in the morning when it's still quiet in my house, dark. I don't sit in any position. I just sit on my little sofa and get comfortable, and I just listen to it. Over time, I was able to get to a point where I didn't need the guided part of the meditation. I knew how to breathe. I just needed the music. I needed a very specific sound. And a friend, as a matter of fact, Mr. Torture Room, Miguel, turned me on to, okay, now I'm not going to be able to think what it's called, frequency music. So the different frequency, the different megahertz are supposed to invoke different moods. You guys realize we're electrical, we're vibration. Honestly, it helps. You're getting your mind and your brain in a certain direction and an attitude. I really like in the morning, I like a positive vibe, something that can kind of get me going and make me feel good. I can do, again, 10 minutes max. It's usually like 9 minutes, 36 seconds. I don't do it every day, but when I start to get stressed out, and I start to feel anxious, and I start to get in my head, I start doing that first thing in the morning because I need that extra to be able to function. I mean, I work with people who have their own issues, and I have to be able to love them and help them and not internalize that. So it really does help. The second thing that I want to talk about is positive affirmations. Yeah. I know all of you who are going, blah, blah, blah. Try it. Again, try it and prove me wrong. Like, that's just going to kind of be my motto there. There's 3 rules to positive affirmations. Number 1, they have to be positive. Duh. Number 2, they have to be personal. They have to be about you. You cannot, while you can help your children by saying, wow, this is so unlike you to have a dirty room or whatever, it's still more important to make sure that you are telling yourself. It's self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Anybody who's ever studied psychology, which that's where I started in college, there's a whole something behind what you tell yourself. If you tell yourself on a regular basis, you are not a good person, you are not worth it, you're going to feel that way. You are educating you. Now listen, your subconscious does not know the difference between real and make-believe. So you have to say these affirmations out loud. Now, if you don't want to do it in front of people, that's fine. Go hide in your closet, shut the door, lock the bathroom. That's what I have to do at my house to be alone. But you need to say things. They need to be positive, personal, and present tense. So I am a healthy 130-pound, whatever, size 5, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that you want to be, you need to tell yourself that out loud. Not a bad idea to record it and listen to it as you go to sleep either, right? You can hear yourself tell yourself that. You're going to have to be a little bit more conscious to train your subconscious what you need and deserve, okay? So it is possible. It might take some time. Now, I fully believe in things like even hypnotherapy. There is another portion of brain waves that we have. If you've ever kind of that moment between awake and sleep, that's a different type of a brain wave. We are a little more in tune to suggestion. You may need to have a little more professional help. Again, don't trust me on that. You're going to have to do your own due diligence, but there are ways around it to retrain yourself. And again, therapy is not a bad option. Counseling, those are all great things that you can tap into. Again, don't look at it as you're not broken. You're not, right? And even if you are broken, a broken crayon still writes, right? You can still have a positive life and be happy, and you do deserve that. Okay, so the other, really quickly, I want to approach when we're talking about like the meditation and the breathing, especially if you tend to have a lot of anxiety. We're also going to talk hormones in just a second, but the breathing helps your nervous system so you can actually learn to calm down your own anxiety. And if you have been to counseling that helps with anxiety, they may have taught you some skills about that. So there are things out there. Don't make yourself miserable. Check it out, find something that works for you. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about really quickly is, especially for those of us that are a little bit older, or if you've had any sort of, I'm just gonna be direct, if you've had your uterus removed, if you've had your ovaries removed, ladies, men, if you are getting a little bit older, and it's not a bad idea to get your hormones tested, especially men. Guys, you're like this, and as you get older, you decline. Ladies, you're like this, right? Your hormones are up and down depending on where you are in your cycle. So it's not just about whether you're producing the hormones, but are they playing well together? And there's a lot of variables that can set that a little bit off track. And so sometimes you might have to go get tested, check it out. Not a bad idea even when you're younger, guys, to get a good baseline test. And listen, you don't want to just go to your primary care provider. You actually want to go to a specialist, because they're going to look at you a little bit differently. Your primary care provider is going to look at you as normal for your age, and your specialist or hormone, that's their expertise. They want you to be optimal for your age, and there is a difference. So if you find, ladies, if you're kind of early years of maybe menopause, you're perimenopausal, you're starting to get anxious, you're having meltdowns you've never had before, depression, you probably need to get your hormones tested, have that found out, have that checked out, either rule that out or do something about it, okay? Because that does play a huge role in that. I'm finding that people younger and younger are having struggles with that, depression, things like that, serotonin, issues with not producing enough serotonin. If you don't provide your body with the right ingredients to build those enzymes and hormones, you are going to struggle, okay? Again, we are what we eat. If you are eating empty calories and garbage all the time, the SAD or standard American diet, you're not actually getting the nutrients you need to be optimal. And that also comes down to mental and psychological issues. They've discovered that most mental illnesses have to do with a lack of certain nutrients, and it might be genetically predisposed to that, but if you're getting all the nutrients that you need, you may not have any issues with that. So again, you might have to do a little research. If you're just eating garbage and you are depressed, try it. Eat healthier, eat for vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. It's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna hurt you. I'm not telling you to take some medication. Now, if your doctor tells you to take it, trust your doctor. Your doctor knows the medication better than I do. That is not my expertise. However, why would you not want to be as optimal as you possibly can by eating the things that make you feel good, give you energy, help you to stay young, lively, have a quality of life? Please, you are your best advocate and you're your own best coach, right? You might need a little guidance from the outside, but if you listen to your body, you're going to find that you can actually tell what you need, right? I think that's very difficult. We haven't been brought up that way. We haven't been taught correct nutrition principles. Even now, I get really, really frustrated with what they deem is appropriate. I'm like, yeah, okay. Even the dietary guidelines the government puts out is appropriate for about 10% of our country. So it is what it is. Again, you're going to have to be your own best advocate and your own best educator. So age, nutrition plays a huge role. You guys, it is possible. You might have to slow down for 2 seconds. I didn't even talk about stress today, and that is also a huge one. If you are super stressed out in your life, that's going to be big, right? Because remember, you cannot burn fat in the presence of cortisol. Cortisol is what your body releases. It's a fight or flight hormone. If you are stressed out all the time, and maybe it's something that you're still affected by. PTSD, guys, it's a real thing. And if you're struggling with something that you have not resolved, you're going to struggle to reach your health goals or burn that fat, because you cannot burn fat in the presence of cortisol. So again, you're getting a little bit of education, a little bit of just paying attention, figuring out what's going on, asking yourself some it's almost like troubleshooting, right? What's not going right? What's a trigger? Why am I feeling that way? What did I eat that made me feel that way? Am I eating enough? Am I not? There's a lot to that. So hopefully I've helped you. Again, the tips are a little all over the place, but again, everybody's different. Everybody's issues are different. I guess the one thing that I ask you to do is to pay attention and try to educate yourself in order to have the most optimal life that you possibly can, because you do deserve to be happy and you do deserve to be healthy. Listen, aging is actually an illness. right? It's unfortunate that our insurance companies look at it as, everything that we do is anti-aging, they won't pay for it. There's no reason that, if you've ever seen like an 80-year-old who's been strength training, running, doing healthy things their whole life, they still move, they're independent, they have a great quality of life. That is what I want for you. So again, it's a little bit different for everybody. You might have to educate yourself, but feel free to ask me questions, because again, if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know, and then we're going to go do some research. So you guys can reach me. You can either drop some messages down below. I know Ani has a question for me, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. She's talking about 40s fatigue, and there's definitely some different directions that can come from. But I get my very best ideas from you. So please, if you have questions, you can message me directly also through Facebook Messenger. Guys, there's a whole lot that's coming out and about right now. There's a lot going on in my life. I'm getting some major things going on. My YouTube channel is up and running. All of these back Q&A Wednesdays, everything I've done for probably the last 5-6 years, all my back episodes are on there. Hop on there. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that anytime we post something new, every Q&A Wednesday and every Meals with Melissa is up there, plus some bonus stuff. Also, we have that new member platform where it's just great, straight education, really simple, trying to help you to understand how your body works. Also starting to add some more things on exercise, how that works, what to do, as well as weight loss psychology. So check that out. I'm going to leave a link down below here. If you're on YouTube already, I'll try to make sure that gets up to that link as well, because these are starting to get posted all over the place. So guys, I love you. I want you to take good care of yourself, especially in this day and age. There's a lot going on, a little scary. But to me, this pandemic is Mother Nature's kind of wake-up call. We all need to take care of ourselves and each other. So have an incredible week, you guys. I love you all. Please stay healthy, my friends. Have a good night.